was required that he register this vehicle in spite of the fact that it was inoperable and on his own property. So in the morning of March 11th, a police officer showed up. The police officer's name was Ben Grant, who knocked on the door and announced that he was going to tow away the van. And this is the first time that the Nag family had been informed that there was a problem. According to the municipal ordinance, they should have received at least one notice, but they never did, that they needed to register the van. And so Mr. Nag got upset. Within a few seconds, he was being beaten by Officer Grant. And out of Mr. Grant's tax-fattened mouth came the familiar string of profanities. You blank, blank Arab, get out of my country or I'm going to kill you, as he beat this man with the baton, then threw him face down and handcuffed him, and called in a report that he had been assaulted by Mr. Nag. And he was eventually convicted of aggravated assault, and his assault consisted of desperately throwing his arms up to try to ward off these completely unprovoked blows by a police baton. Apparently, impeding the cranium-bound trajectory of a police baton constitutes aggravated assault.
No, courts have ruled that. So you're going to let somebody attack you with a deadly weapon for no reason.
Exactly.
See, I wouldn't be able to control myself. I'm not. I just can't handle the image of these bullies when somebody's down, kicking them in the face, and if you cover your face, they charge you. It's just an incredible crime.
Yeah. For instance, I've seen people literally be charged with assaulting an officer for bleeding on the fists that are beating them. And that's part of what I call the martial law mindset, the idea that we have an unqualified duty to render immediate, unconditional submission to anybody in a government-issued costume who orders us to do something. In a free society that's worthy of that description, nobody who's a government employee would be able to exercise that supposed authority over...
Well, let's be honest. They're getting rid of the private property and the free speech next. There's really nothing left but the Second Amendment. We're not a free country anymore. We've been conquered by criminal elements, and they've trained and hyped up the system to love evil.
That's apparently what's happening. I can't disagree with that assessment as much as it pains me to admit it. I do think that one of the reasons we're seeing such a drive right now to promote civilian disarmament is the idea that within a couple of years, the powers that be are going to be dealing with full-spectrum operations in the homeland, which is the name of an essay from Small Wars Journal that just came out within the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, let's pull that up. In fact, I saw that. Give us that title again.
Full-spectrum operations in the homeland, a vision of the future. It's in the Small Wars Journal, and the authors are Kevin Benson, who's a retired colonel.
Yeah, stay there. We're going to come back with that. That leads into drones straight ahead. All right, we have done countless reports on this. We have had many guests on breaking it down, but now it's here. About 12 years ago, I began to read public Pentagon documents where they said there won't be any astronauts, there won't be any submariners, there won't be anybody on ships unless it's in repair. There won't be any submarines, as I said. There won't be any men in aircraft, or women for that matter. We're all fighting women in the Air Force, women in combat roles. It's all a done issue. It's all over. The globalists who think of us as animals, that think of us as human resources to be used, they have made the decision to get humans out of all the decision-making processes. When they made workers work more than 18 hours a day with almost no pay, working their fingers to the bloody bone because Al Gore is so greedy at Apple that they had the worst working conditions basically in China because he's on the board making the decisions because he's so liberal, so trendy, and so loving, and so good. When that happened, they said, you know what, instead of putting up suicide nets, get rid of the people, bring in robots. And it's one thing if a corporation replaces humans with robots and then have robots making the robots, which they advertise on television. These big corporations are bragging that soon there'll be no humans involved anywhere from mining the material all the way to delivering the product. Google cars are getting authorized for the road, all of it. But here's the problem. They're already saying that the cars are safer than humans, and so that humans won't be allowed to drive soon. They're already designing the cars with cameras hooked into the police that watch you, because a child might get left in the car and die, so the police have to watch you. They're already admitting your laptop is watching you. It's beyond 1984, and so humans are allowing the technological controllers, the technocrats as they call themselves, to take our tax money and our inventions and our ingenuity and wall us out of society. And that's why Bill Joy, back in 2000, what was it, the April issue of Wired magazine, wrote, "Why the Future Doesn't Need Us." You can pull it up, it's online. And he said, yeah, I recently went and had dinner with 200 company owners. He was the owner of Sun Microsystems. And we had a debate. Do we kill everybody or do we allow some to live, but just let them play games online? And basically it's like the people you see in WALL-E that are on the big cruise ship and can't walk without the aid of robots. There's either that future, this is what the elite are saying, or they call themselves the elite, the alpha predators. There's either that future where we're these waddling creatures, or there's just get rid of us all. And Dick Cheney wrote in the September 20th, 2000 document, he just said, create race-specific bioweapons and we'll start wiping out certain races of people. And he said we need to have the media legitimize its use. Only one newspaper wrote an article saying it was bad. Strangely enough, it was the Austin American-Statesman. That's a terrible globalist publication. But maybe that even got to them. So here's the deal, folks. I'm not worried if my hair is falling out. I'm not worried if I got a blemish on my nose. I'm not worried what my neighbors think about me. Most people are caught and paralyzed in this trendiness where it's just all about their own ego. Folks, we've got eugenicists, neo-feudal fascists who were anti-free market, anti-family, who, by the way, happen to be a cultist on top of it. I didn't even cover that issue 17 years ago, but the research kept running into that, who are basically megalomaniacs. You heard about Nero, Stalin, Hitler, Montezuma. Crazy people get in and do horrible things. Now they are announcing, guess what? We did have space planes that were robot in space. Oh, guess what? The Air Force will completely convert to drones. Oh, guess what? We are going to have the entire submarine fleet be robot. Oh, guess what? We do have combat robots. We didn't want to show them to you because they're scary looking, but have you seen Terminator? See, things like Terminator, that's not life imitating art now with Skynet. That's art imitating life. When you read about The Matrix, and I'm not saying they'll ever be able to do all this. This is what they're theorizing. There's a DARPA document from 1978, or is it 76? I'm going from memory. It's in my book. It's out of print, Descent into Tyranny, but it's online at prisonplanet.tv. Then we're going to our guest. This is some background knowledge here. Problem is I can't start talking about this and then shut up. We're going to go to him. And I apologize that I'm ranting. And they say in there, well, we'll just, for everyone's safety, we'll just wire into everybody's brain, give them unlimited pleasure, give them a virtual reality to live in, and it's moral as long as they're not in pain, and we'll put you in a tank, and the heat from your own body will be used to power the electronics. You may have seen that in a 1999 film called The Matrix. Yeah, that movie didn't think of any of that. This is what DARPA is thinking of. And by the way, they implement most of what they end up really pushing for. Our society is a DARPA world. Let's go back to author, researcher, filmmaker, Will Grigg, willgrigg.com. Greg is Grigg.com. Excellent site. Recommend folks check that out. Will, you've heard my little 5-minute rant here. They're now making the announcement, and you've written some excellent articles breaking down how sexy it is. They're getting battle stars for sitting there in their air conditioning, and it's manly to kill a couple hundred people if you get one guy, no judge, no jury. It's always, of course, violates the Geneva Convention, our own rules. But now they're saying the drones will be here, and you were getting into that document, full spectrum dominance here in Homeland.
Yes, full spectrum operations in the homeland, a vision of the future. And when they're talking about full spectrum, of course, that entails the use of all the technology that's been deployed in Afghanistan and Pakistan and Somalia and Yemen and points unknown, including the use of unmanned aerial vehicles or drones that would be used to conduct surveillance and also to conduct kill missions. And we already have two precedents, at least two, there are probably more, but two very important important ones involving the summary execution of U.S. citizens on presidential orders by way of a drone-fired missile. The first was Anwar al-Awlaki, who was accused but never formally charged with various crimes of subversion and sedition and such like. He was executed by a drone-fired missile in the country of Yemen on the specific explicit orders of Barack Obama, who told his underlings, "I want Anwar al-Awlaki." And then
by the way, they say that to make it sound like he's James Bond. We don't even know if any of that's true, and his family got killed reportedly, because Fox News did report he was really meeting with the Secretary of the Army when he was on the most wanted list and was a high-level agent. So that was probably just them publicly retiring one of their assets. And they may have actually killed him. They're so traitorous to their own operatives.
That's true. I mean, we have to consider, once again, the inexhaustible cynicism of the people we're dealing with. But we do know that a couple of weeks later, there was another drone strike on the 16-year-old son of Mr. al-Awlaki, who'd apparently gone to Yemen searching for his father, who had been publicly named as somebody on a kill list. So they've established a precedent here by making the claim and exercising the supposed authority to bring about the summary execution of U.S. citizens by way of drone-fired missiles. And, of course, this year we see that surveillance drones for domestic law enforcement applications are becoming a more and more commonplace thing. They've been in the pipeline, as you point out, Alex, for many years. There have been a couple of instances where there have been sheriff's departments who have publicly denied that they have received Homeland Security grants and Pentagon grants to obtain drones, but they have nonetheless obtained them. There was a leak a couple of months ago describing the FAA's licensing permits for the operation of domestic drones in various places in the United States. A number of people were surprised to find out that their local police department, their local sheriff's department, has been put on that list, and they're getting prepared now to upgrade their services to include these devices. And we have, just last week, a court ruling authorizing or vindicating after the fact the use of 2 drones operated by the Department of Homeland Security to help conduct the arrest of the sons of a farmer by the name of Brossard in North Dakota. He'd been arrested the day before by the local sheriff's office, with whom he'd had some trouble over the course of a number of years. There's troubled sheriff's department here. Mr. Brossard and his family are farmers. They'd had disputes with their neighbors, and in this particular instance, they were involved in a dispute over wandering cattle.
Which the media spun as rustling, and so now the sheriff's department called in Homeland Security and the Air Force with air support, and that's what they're now announcing. I've talked to police, but it's also in the documents. You mentioned that full spectrum dominance report. I was just showing it on screen for Prisonplanet.tv viewers. It's got Army entering our houses. It covers everything they're going to do to us.
Exactly.
The loving gun confiscation, everything. Go ahead.
Well, all these things have been done overseas by the U.S. military in the course of what is called Operations Other Than War, OOTW, Operations Other Than War, in which you have police officers acting as reservists and National Guard operatives, National Guard soldiers, sent overseas as part of military operations where they behave as police officers in countries such as Afghanistan or Haiti, Somalia, you know the list. And then once they've developed this ability, they come back and they start doing the same things domestically. One of the things that I find quite fascinating is that if you take a look at military deployments in the 1990s during the first Bush administration and during the Clinton administration, you have episodes of what is called in the literature micro-disarmament. Micro-disarmament is, as you say, Alex, the confiscation of firearms using gun registry lists. This happened in Haiti, for instance. In Haiti, you could own just about any firearm or explosive device you wanted, as long as you registered with the local constabulary. Once the name and the firearms or explosives were in the registry, the United States military, which invaded in, I believe, 1994, if memory serves, in order to reinstall Aristide, who was a not particularly desirable ruler, had been thrown out of the country by a military junta, acting on the supposed authority of a UN Security Council resolution, the U.S. military invaded Haiti and reinstalled Aristide at bayonet point, and part of this involved disarming anybody who could put up a fuss to fight back against this fellow who was a deranged Marxist ruler. And so they went door to door collecting firearms using gun registration lists. This is called micro-disarmament. As are gun